So let's dive in. First up, I am Meredith Eaton. I am the CEO of Eaton Press, which is a self-publishing services company, which is to say that we provide all of the services that someone is going to need to self-publish their book. And for anyone who is unfamiliar with self-publishing or still sees it as like the path that people take who can't get real published, it's changed a lot in the years of the last year. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But I have been working in publishing for 10 years. I started out as sort of more of a traditional publisher working in fiction, and then transitioned into working in nonfiction services with people who are mostly publishing their books for some sort of purpose, more than just becoming an author. So it's to help their business, it's to preserve a legacy, it's to transition careers, that kind of thing. And I love it. It lets me use all of my background in business and all of my storytelling and writing experience to work with people to help them achieve business goals. So at the end of this webinar, my goal is that everyone will have an understanding of what your options are for producing, printing, and distributing your memoirs and/or other books, that you will have some information for how to move forward on whatever path you think is right. So I'm hopefully giving everyone some steps, regardless of what your objectives are. And then also just be aware of all of the different resources and options that are available for you, depending on what you want to do and where you want to go from here. So let's talk about the state of publishing in 2022. The truth is it's easier than ever to publish and distribute your own book, and that's a great thing. The reality with traditional publishing is that they are becoming more and more risk averse every day, which means it's harder and harder for sort of regular people to have an opportunity to publish. They're doubling down more and more on people who already have a name, who already have a huge media following, because it's going to be easier to sell books. Because the truth is that so many talented, successful people are self-publishing books that as a group have become a real threat to traditional published companies. Traditional publishing is a little bit of a dinosaur when it comes to their business models, and it makes it hard for them to compete. Generally speaking, when you work with a traditional publisher, your timeline from the time that they may option your book until it comes out is minimum, pretty much generally always a year. And I've known people where it can take up to 2 years or 3 years. I've known people who have had their book purchased, it sat in the publisher for a year, and then the publisher gave it back to them. So they lost an entire year of their life with trying to get this book published. And that's why so many people who are smart and they are accomplished and they have something to say and they want a book to accomplish a specific goal in their lives are choosing self-publishing. So also a lot of people think if they go with a traditional publisher, it's going to take the burden of marketing off their shoulders. And for a lot of people, that's the scariest part about any kind of publicly distributed book is the marketing. But the truth is that publishers don't actually do that. They still expect the author to do the vast majority of the marketing. And that's why they tend to go with people who already have a name, who already have a following, who, if not globally famous, are social media famous, are an influencer. So that has been great for me because I've always been the kind of person who likes to bring the power to the people and likes to empower everyone on their own. And so that's how I've built this company over the last couple of years. And while small presses and traditional publishers have really been struggling over the last couple of years with COVID, we've been doing great. And the people who've worked with us have been doing great because we're just taking it directly to our audience, because people are still buying books. It's just the marketing and old school marketing that's taking a hit. So now that I've made my case for self-publishing, we're going to dive into my tips, the 10 tips to help you make your decisions go forward. So tip number 1 is that you can do this on your own. You can. There's a ton. Yeah, okay. Um, I'm on mute. Okay. So I'm just going to talk briefly. And again, I could do an hour on every one of these tips. So forgive me if I sort of like move through kind of quickly, but I will try to answer questions when I can. So there are abundance of tools and resources you can use. The most popular, and this is not exhaustive, the most popular is Amazon KDP. So KDP designates that that's the self-publishing platform that they use. So if you look it up, if you Google it, if you Google Amazon KDP, that's going to take you straight to the self-publishing site. There's Lulu, which is very similar to Amazon, not as well evolved. They don't have quite as easy an interface, but it's pretty close. It's pretty good. And they have a couple formatting options that Amazon doesn't have, which is why I put them on the list. So those are platforms that will help you actually get your book turned into a book, if you will. So you upload the book, you format it, you do a cover, and they create the book you hold in your hand. In terms of other resources to help you with that, YouTube is a huge, amazing resource. So you can learn anything on YouTube. So you can find tutorials for how to use Amazon KDP or Lulu or any of the other platforms. You probably could find more platforms. Canva, which is the platform I'm using right now to do this PowerPoint in, is a really great tool for designing book covers. They have templates that are set up and you can, you don't have to know very much to do it. For marketing tools, all that kind of stuff. Canva is a really great tool. There's a free version. Highly recommend it. And then there's service providers. There's companies like Eaton Press. There's a lot of other companies like us where you can hire us to do the work, do the formatting, do the cover design, or just answer questions and be a consultant for you through the process. Or at least with Eaton Press, we meet you where you're at. We do whatever it is you need. There's no like, full packages, that kind of thing. Tip number 2, ask for help when you need it. So while self-publishing and using Amazon and Lulu is really easy, they make it as easy as possible. There's still a learning curve and it can very quickly get frustrating. It can very quickly become sort of overwhelming if you get stuck in a loop. And I've been dealing with Amazon for years. And so I kind of know a lot of the tricks and the places where people get stuck. And so don't think that because you've decided to go on your own and that you're going with like Amazon, for example, that that's it and you're just on your own forever. There are a lot of ways that you can get help. So the first way, there's tons of Facebook and LinkedIn groups that are built from publishers, authors, self-published authors, people who are consultants, people who just have done it themselves and want to share the information. There are, all you do, if you just go on to either Facebook or LinkedIn and type in self-publishing or publishing consultant, you'll find tons of groups where people can ask questions and get information. So Amazon and Lulu both offer really great customer support. Amazon's a little bit better than Lulu. A real person, they will answer your questions. They can log into your account. They can help you walk through. They also both offer extensive tutorials, library, documents you could download. Like there's a ton of information to help you through. You can also go on to, and for Amazon and Lulu, they will walk you through the process of creating your cover, formatting your interior, uploading it, all that kind of stuff. You can also hire experts to help with some of that technical stuff, such as creating your cover, formatting your interior, if that feels overwhelming. A couple places you can go for help is a site called Upwork or Fiverr, and that's sort of a clearinghouse or a platform for consultants, and you can evaluate based on their skills and their experience. Then you can also go online course platforms like Skillshare, Udemy. There are tons of courses on self-publishing, on using Amazon, and using Lulu, and using all these other platforms on from like the most nuanced, tiniest detail to like the biggest picture. I wrote a book, now what? There are millions of courses. They're usually around like $6, $9 a course. So that can be a really good option if you really want to go it on your own. So even though you're on your own, There's so many ways to have support. Tip number 3, be clear on your goal. And this is really important because it's going to influence the choices that you make. So why are you publishing this book? So, and I want to ask if you're up for it, put your number. If one of these numbers relates to you, put it in the chat. I'm just curious to see. So these are the most common reasons that I hear when people come to Press for why they're publishing, that they want to share it with their friends and family. They want to share it with friends and family, but also a broader community. I had a client recently his family was very instrumental in the history of his town. So he wanted to write this memoir as a book, but then also be able to share it with the schools and the community centers and the museum and that kind of thing. Or that also goes with educational purposes. If you specifically want it to be in schools or you want it to be used for some sort of historical groups, maybe writing a book is simply on your bucket list, and that's okay. That is a great reason for going forward. Maybe you want to actually sell and publish your book for income, or you're using it as a way to launch some other endeavor. So I see a couple people in the chat. So we've got, oh, great. Okay. Some 6s, 2s, 4s. Awesome. Awesome. 2s, a lot of 2s. That's great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, so hopefully that this will help you get some clarity on making some decisions for that. So tip number 4, we have to have a distribution plan. And this is where we start to get a little bit into the nuts and bolts. And so I'm trying to stay big picture and not get lost in the weeds, but I like everyone to have all the information. So I tend to share a lot. So distribution plan refers to specifically the process through which you're going to get your book into the hands of other people. In a nutshell, that's what we're talking about here. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. And what your ultimate goals are likely to impact your choices on distribution. So some questions to ask: are you planning to give your books away for free, or are you planning on selling them? Do you want to be the person who's like basically in charge of distribution if you're going to be handing out the books or even selling your books, but you want to be in control of that? Or do you not want to have anything to do with that? And so you want to put them up online, whether because you're selling them for profit or you just don't want to be the middleman, that you want people to be able to order them through some sort of third party that will handle the printing and distribution of the book, the shipping, all that kind of stuff. And so, for example, Amazon, KDP and Lulu will be a very good platform for that. You can make the price very low if you're not sort of looking to actually make money, but everyone has to get paid, so you can't make it for free on Amazon because they have to take their cut, but you can make it very, very low cost, or you can make it high cost. It's completely up to you. That's certainly the easiest way to handle distribution, is you just get it up on Amazon and then let them take it from there. But not everybody wants to do it that way. We did a memoir for my grandmother a few years ago, and she just wanted to hand them out to people. She just wanted a stack at all times. So we ordered them for her. My dad would give them to her, and she'd hand them out like they were candy. So in that case, we didn't want it live on Amazon. We didn't want random people finding it, but it was a really good system. So some other examples of distribution, because this is where a lot of people can kind of get like caught up in the logistics and the details. So I wanted to give a little more information. So if you use KDP or Lulu, you have a few options. You can buy copies from that platform without putting it on sale to the public, without having it searchable. And you are able to buy the books at an author price, which is very cheap. And it's cheaper than wholesale. Basically, you're just paying Amazon their cost to print the book. And then you can get the book. You can get one book, you can get 300 books, and anything in between, and as often as you want. Or the other option is you can use KDP or Lulu and just put them on sale and then take yourself out of the process. There's pros and cons on both. The main thing I always tell people to think about is if you are doing your own distribution, Think about if you're mailing things, if you're going to be driving around, dropping them off all the time, that also can change cost, that kind of stuff. But we can talk, this is a very personal decision, not personal like private, but personal, like very much related to what you plan to do and what your time and budget resources are. So happy to talk more about this later, but in general, those are two kind of most common avenues. Tip number 5 is to really think about your timeline. This is where I see a lot of people get tripped up because they don't allow enough time for the book to get produced and to put on sale. So if you need your book by a specific day, let's say you are using it for business and there's a certain time of year where your clients are most likely to buy, or you're going to a conference and you want to be able to have the book for sale at the conference. So you have to have that book in your hand on June 1st. If you're just thinking about it in May, it's probably not going to work out. So you want to really be thinking ahead. If you want it for Christmas, if you want it for an anniversary, on average, it takes 30 to 60 days. And that means your book, the writing is done. It's been edited, like you're done. You don't want to touch it again. And you're starting the process of formatting it, uploading it to Amazon, that kind of stuff. So it will take between 30 and 60 days. And the difference has to do with how you're doing it. If you're doing it yourself, you're hiring someone, what their timeline is. Sometimes there are hiccups. Amazon can be kind of fussy at times. So I always say allow a little bit of extra time. We don't want to cut it too close. Also, Amazon counts days, only business days. They don't count weekends or holidays. So that has caught a few people off guard as well when they've cut it to the last minute and ended up being late, and allow for shipping time as well. It can take, especially right now, I'm seeing clients waiting 10 to 14 to 20 business days to get their books, where it used to be 4 or 5 business days, because that's just the way the world is right now. Tip number 6, print on demand is your best friend. And print on demand is what makes self-publishing and Amazon distribution possible. And a lot of people either don't know what print on demand is or think it's a sort of second-rate way to produce your book, but it is not. It is fantastic. Basically, what that means is the books are only printed when they're ordered. So you don't have to hold inventory. Amazon doesn't have to hold inventory. You just get the book when you want it. So in the old days, or with traditional publishers, you would have to order 100 books or sometimes 1,000 books, pay for them up front, and then do something with all those books. And that's where you might hear stories sometimes of authors where they're talking about they have books stacked up in their garage and their trunk is full and that kind of stuff. And that's from back about 10 to 15 years ago, when that was the only way. You had to order a whole bunch of books from an offset printer or a real life printer, as I call it sometimes. And then you had these books and you had to sell them or you had to do something with them. That's not a thing anymore. So you can go on Amazon and you can order 3 copies and you just have 3 copies. You can order 10, you can order 100. It doesn't matter. So it really makes it so much easier. From the consumer's point of view, no difference. Absolutely no difference. If you're selling your book on Amazon for money and someone goes on to order it, it's still eligible for Prime. It'll still ship as fast as any other book or product can ship from Amazon. It'll look the same, like there's no way to tell the difference. The only difference is on the back end, which is that it makes it so much easier for everybody. And that's why Amazon doesn't charge for the upfront. Like they charge you when you actually print and ship the book, but there's no like membership fee, there's no startup fees, setup fees, any of that kind of stuff, because they don't have to make warehouse space, they don't have to manage any of that. So the advent of print on demand and the high quality of it is really the game changer in terms of shifting to self-publishing as a really viable method of getting your book out. Tip number 7, the cost of printing your books is going to be determined by the number of pages and the color of the interior. And this is another place where I've seen some people get tripped up. So with print on demand, generally speaking, most nonfiction books, we're looking, your cost to get the book, it's going to be under $5, usually a lot under $5. But the longer it is, the more it costs. And it's not like a page is $1. It's like I don't even know what the formula is, but it's like every 50 pages is like another 75 cents or something. But that's the thing. So publishing a 200-page book is going to cost more than publishing a 100-page book. Black and white interior, cheapest way. So a normal book where it's just text, 100 pages, you're looking at like about $2 for your cost to get that book. So that means you could, if you're selling it, you could sell it at $10 and make a good profit off of it. Or if you're giving it away, that's a pretty low cost to give away anything. You have to add on tax and shipping, but that's usually like a couple cents per book. It's not a huge expense. And it's dependent on how many books you're ordering. So, however, for a lot of people, they want to put pictures in their book, whether it's graphs or pictures or some sort of graphic. If your entire interior is either black and white or color, there's no like just these pages are color and just these pages are black and white. It's all or nothing, which if it's black text, it still looks black, but in terms of the pricing and the way that it gets printed. And that's perhaps the only downside to print on demand, is you don't get to like take certain pages and have a glossy picture pages, which is what a lot of people think of when they think of putting pictures in their books. So if you had some pictures and you really wanted them to be in color, you would be choosing a entirely color interior, which will double or possibly triple your price. But if we're talking tripling your $2 price, that might not be a big deal. Or maybe it is, but that's just something to keep in mind. Everyone, there's no right or wrong. There's no, price point that is like, has any significance. It's just a matter of being prepared, knowing kind of what you're going into. I had a client who did a book that was 54 pages, 100% color, full color. And that one ended up being, I think, $12 as her cost to print. So she's selling it for her business. So she's selling it for about $20 to make a couple of dollars on it. So just as an example. But I have another book that's only 24 pages, full color. And I think her cost is $4 something, maybe $5. So it's all relative, but so I've had a lot of clients get to the point of like ready to print and then be very upset to find out that they have to do the pictures in black and white if they don't want to pay the higher price. Tip number 8, have a budget in mind. So now that we've talked a little bit about these different elements, it's really good to at the beginning kind of have a sense of what you're willing to invest, and not just money, but time as well. So everything has a cost benefit balance, right? So you can spend money, you can spend time. It's generally the negotiation that you're going to make. And so for some people, they have a lot more time than money. Some people have more money than time, and you can make some decisions in that sense. Also looking at what your goals are, giving the book away, selling the book, that kind of thing. So if you start with this general budget in mind, it's going to help you make some choices on some of these decisions that you're going to have to make. And it's going to help you with your timeline and planning ahead. So some things just to think about: how many books do you think you're going to want to have on hand per month, per year, however it is that you're thinking about it, that you're going to be purchasing? So let's say it's a scenario where you're going to give the book away and you want to give it to all the schools in your school district. And so you calculate that out to be 500 books a quarter. Well, at that price point, maybe you don't want to do color. Maybe you want to stay black and white and you only have a couple pictures and it's not, or you just all in all the color, but that's where it can make a difference. Or if you're only thinking you're going to give away 10 or 20, then it's not going to matter as much. Also, think about yourself. So think about whether or not you really are a DIYer, or are you going to want to bring in some help, professional help. So are you going to, and this is if you have a lot of time and you're planning on watching the YouTube and videos and doing the online courses and learning how to do it yourself, and you have no particular time crunch, and this is just your new hobby, then I applaud that, and that is fantastic, and that's going to lower your budget for money and increase your time budget. And then also something to think about based on, again, your goals for your book. Will you need to market the book? So for those of you who said that you're using the book to launch a new endeavor, use it for business, you're going to need to do some kind of marketing, even if that marketing is simply having copies of the books at events to hand out, or sending, getting a email aggregator that you can send out, mass emails, whatever it is. There's likely to be some costs. So just think about that. And again, there's no right or wrong. There's no universal. I can't tell you what to make your budget, but just being ready is the best way to make sure you're not derailed at the last second. So the tip number 9, specifically speaking to those of you who have a book that you want to publish to the public, that you want it to be a retail product, you want to make money off it, self-publishing, for all the reasons we've already discussed, is still your best bet. And I really, really strongly encourage everyone I talk to not to get too caught up in the idea of getting traditionally published. A lot of people feel like having that is like a stamp of approval, or something that sort of like, now you're legitimate, or that you're good. And that was true at one point. It's not true anymore, really. More, if you get picked up by a traditional publisher, what it's saying is that they believe you can sell books, that your books will sell. And that could be a mark of quality, but 90% of the time, it's purely marketability. It has nothing to do with the book itself. It's because you have a huge following, or you have a name, or you have a connection that they believe will sell books, because publishers just want to make money. That's it. That, at the bottom line, that's it. So in everything, every decision they make is going to be to their benefit. And if they have to choose between their benefit and your benefit, they're going to choose their own benefit. So just something to keep in mind. So, you have very limited control, very limited flexibility over anything when you work with a traditional publisher. So that's the other benefit for publishing, especially nonfiction books. You just, so much control, so much influence, so much flexibility. The people reading your book almost never can tell the difference. I do a mastermind with people who are deciding what kind of book they're going to write for their business. And a lot of them are very hung up in like wanting to be traditionally published. So we started doing this exercise where I tell them to go on Amazon and find me 2 books that are self-published, and 2 books that are not self-published. And they'll search, Penguin, and they're able to come up with the 2. But it is much harder to find books that they can prove were self-published. It's much harder. And where I'll pull up a profile and say, tell me on here, look down the whole Amazon page and show me how you know that this was self-published. And they can't. It's not obvious. Sometimes I can't even tell, and I know every little trick and detail to look for. But so the point being, nobody cares. That legitimacy at this point is deemed through availability. So 99% of the time, you're going to say, I wrote a book. And the response is going to be, can I get it on Amazon? Or how do I get it? Not who published it. People just want your book. They want your topic. They want your book. They don't care. They don't care how they get it, or how it came to be in existence. And then tip number 10 is that preserving your legacy is in fact a great investment of your time and money. It is worth the endeavor. And I have a lot of clients who are told the opposite by family, by spouses, by the voices in their head. And the reality is that whatever your reason, it's worth it. Books never go out of style. They're easy to store, they're easy to preserve, easy to share. And it's a relatively low investment for what you get out of it, which is something that will stand the test of time, that is such a powerful communication tool, and that will give you so many options for communicating, and for a platform for starting other things, businesses, speaking, whatever it is you want to accomplish. a book is one of the most cost-effective tools that you can use to accomplish any of these things that we've talked about. So that's it for the tips. And I went a little quick because I really want to have time for questions, because everything is always about the individual questions. But just real quick, how can Eat and Press help you? We have a lot of ways that we can help you. The most exciting thing that I'm very excited about, we're launching a new program using Memoir, which is just a very quick and easy way. This is geared more towards people who really want to be able to give the book away, who just sort of want this legacy feeling and don't want to get mired in all the computer stuff and the technical, you just want it done. So we've been able to develop a fairly low price way and very, very quick way of doing that. And if you want to, and I'm going to click this link in a second and give you and put it in the chat, but you can sign up on the for our mailing list, and then we'll follow up with you, let you know when the program is live. But also Eat and Press has a variety of other services. So if you want to go sort of, if your plan is to use the book to make money, whether it's through selling the book or getting business or starting a business, we have a program called our Executive Publishing Program, where we help you with finishing writing the book, if you need that, all the way up through getting it on sale. So editing, cover design, interior layout, and ebook conversion. It's roughly 3 months, 3-month program, 4 months, depending on your editing or what you need from editing, and everything in between. So you can come to us just for help with a cover, just for copy editing, just for layout, just for ebook conversion. We also offer hourly consulting if you just sort of want to DIY it, but no, you could call someone who's a real person in a real house, not like a call center somewhere, who will walk you through it. And we even can log into your Amazon account if you want us to, if you get stuck, because sometimes the problem is Amazon. The problem is not you, the problem is Amazon, but it's hard to know. So we can even log into your account if you want us to and see if we can untangle what's happened and decide. And I've even gotten on the call to customer service with a client as a conference call so I could help her talk through the issue with Amazon and get it all sorted out. So we just want people to be able to get their books into the world and to do it in a way that makes sense to them. We want to help elevate the quality of books that are self-published. So whatever we can do to help people do that, we're in. So you can stay in touch with us through our website. If you go to our website, there is right away pops up a way to sign up for a mailing list. And there is everywhere on the site a button to click if you want to set up a call. Super easy. And that is the fastest way to get in touch. I don't recommend emailing me because my inbox is overwhelming and I tend to not see stuff. It's like once a week, I kind of clean out my inbox. So definitely setting up a call or contacting me on social media is also really an effective way. And Instagram and Facebook are the two ways that I am easily reached. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go through the chat and I'm going to put the link for the mailing list in the chat as well. Okay, there we go. Let me pull up the chat and see what questions we've got. Yes, okay, I'm going backwards up this list, but we will be mailing out a copy of this presentation. It is being recorded, so probably tomorrow, because I have other meetings this afternoon, you'll get an email. Also want to let everybody know that even though you had to give your email address to get signed up for this webinar, I'm not going to take your email addresses and just put them on my list. You would need to opt in by either signing up on the link I'm going to give you now, going to my website and signing up that way. The only time you'll hear from me, if you haven't asked to hear from me, is when I send you the recording using the email you signed up. So just want everyone to know that I'm not mining your information and you're not all of a sudden on my mailing list. Okay, standard print size. Can you, yes, okay, great question. So there are sort of industry standards, but there's no law So generally speaking, the size of the font depends a little bit on the type of font. I'm going to get so nerdy on you right now. I'm going to try not to. So the type of font, the space between the letters, the space between the lines, all contributes to readability. There is an option to do what it like official large font. And when you're uploading to Amazon, they'll ask you, is this going to be a large font book? And then they will understand that when you're uploading it and when they're reviewing it for you. If you were to just make your font really big, randomly big, and not click that option, they might flag it as like badly formatted. That's the only thing, but you can do anything you want. And even if they flag it for badly formatted, you can get around that. You can go back to them and say, I did it on purpose. It's how the book's supposed to be. And most of the time they'll let you through. So, so standard print size is roughly 12 to a 14, again, depending on the font you're using. Sometimes it's an 11. But there's not like this is where it gets like very in the weeds. So I know it's readable and I can't really describe it. So that's where like having an expert kind of weigh in at some point is really helpful, because it does make a difference in how people will receive your book. So was that helpful, Howard? If it wasn't, just pop in or tell me that I went the wrong direction on that. Mickey, oh, thank you. I'm glad that's helpful. I'm always trying to avoid not like hitting you with a fire hose of information, because there's a lot up here. And then, yeah, copy of the recordings. So that's wow. I'm usually overwhelmed with questions, which is why I try to leave time. Yes.
I have a question and a request. First of all, I was wondering if everybody could turn their cameras back on, because I'd like to take a screenshot. It's just my own greediness, but I love seeing all of you. So thank you so much for coming. I hope this has been helpful. But I wanted to summarize just a little bit. As many of you know, my mother-in-law, Martha, was in the memoir writing class even before I started being in the class and leading the class. And when she passed last year at the age of 98 and a half, she left a binder full of her short essay memoirs that she had written in this class even before I was involved, right? So she'd been in the class for about 7 years. And it's wonderful to have this binder full of memoirs, little short essay memoirs, but it's heavy. It's not real distributable. It's heavy. It's a binder about this thick. It's a big binder. Someone has to go through and pick out the choicest of the essays to distribute to family and friends. And that's going to be the case whether we keep it in a binder or whether we publish it in some way, shape, or form. And what I'm hearing from Meredith is it's relatively easy. It would be relatively easy to just dump all of her stories into, because we've got the digital files, right? She did them all in Chrome, in Word, or Google Docs, and to just like dump it into this program at Amazon, not include pictures, just do it, right? Who has time to do that? Even that, even that for me, who is semi-retired, but it's still something that needs to be done, right? And ideally, if we did that, we would choose the choicest ones, pick 20 photos to include in it. I don't know how. I think the Amazon program, you can still position photos wherever you want them and size them and all that other stuff. It takes time. It takes a little skill. It's not like it's instantaneous, right? So somebody has to scan the photos in, figure out where they're going to go, put them where they're going to go. And then that, of course, changes the formatting. So then you want to make sure that your paragraph break at the bottom of the page carries over, that the next sentence does indeed carry over to the next page. So there's a real, even though it's a lot less skilled than you might need to have, it takes patience. And I my publishing career started back when we were laying out newspapers with paste. A printer would print the columns and you'd have to cut them out with scissors and paste them. I mean, it just evolves all the time. So I would say if you want to have a book that is portable enough that you can actually give to people or send to people or drop off at your local school or your local libraries or market through Amazon, I would say if you have the patience and the time to do it yourself, go for it. Absolutely go for it. And we may do some, maybe we can even, somebody in our family can pick the best stories and somebody else in our family can dump them into Amazon and somebody else in the family can send them to people. We could divvy up the chores, right? And that's one way to do it, or keep it in a binder. So I would advocate for, turning it into a book. And if you've got more time than money, do it yourself or get your grandson to help you. Yeah. So let me see, Meredith, you might want to add something to all of that, but that's just my.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, that yes, anybody can do it, but does anybody want to do it? That's the question. We do it all the time. We're pretty quick at it. We've passed the learning curve, so we can help you out with it. And similar story, my grandmother, as I mentioned, the second book I ever published was this book for my grandmother. And she wrote everything out by hand. And my dad, her son, went through and typed it all in for her. And then I put it together into a book and we put it out, and I used Amazon to get it out. And we had some pictures in there, just like 4 or 5. And her thing was she didn't want to edit it. My dad kept saying, do you want me to just, she said, I wrote what I wrote. And that's how it is. And so it was a little bit, it was like sort of no rhyme or reason to the story. It's just this random collection, but it's fantastic. And now that she has passed, it's a really awesome resource. And I have a copy, my dad has a copy, but it's on Amazon. So I can go get another copy anytime I want. Like if I lose my copy, if someone else wants one, 2 seconds, $3 maybe. And, with shipping, and I have my grandmother's book back,
Yeah. I wanted to add also that the issue of the publisher, a traditional publisher versus self-publishing. A couple thoughts. One is that, I would think that, especially if you're used to writing in an academic setting, that having the imprimatur of, whatever press you're used to seeing your academic books on, for instance, that having that imprimatur in your mind, if not in everybody else's mind, but maybe in some people's minds, this was this was printed by Harcourt Brace. And so therefore it's, it's been vetted. Somebody there thinks that it's of excellent quality. They've gotten John Grisham to put a little blurb on the front or whatever, right? So there is that. I don't think we can deny that there's that, that value. That value is there. Now, on the other hand, I have a friend who published a novel recently through a publishing company. They still expected him to do all of his own marketing. He waited well over a year to get a copy of the book. He's, having to hop in his car and drive to Charleston or Columbus or someplace to, go talk up his book to 8 people in a bookstore. That's his gas money. That's his time, right? So it's not like they do a lot for you, even if it's, a publishing company. So if people aren't really paying all that much attention to who publishes a book, and if I published a book with Meredith and we agreed the inside cover was going to say published by Eaton Press, right? If somebody's going to buy that book, they're going to see, published by Eaton Press. And it doesn't have to be Harcourt Brace. I mean, I rarely look at who the publisher is of a book.
Right. Yeah. Especially ebooks. If you have an audience that's particular to Kindle, a lot of times the book starts after those pages. You have to go out of your way to get back to the copyright page. So most people don't, especially I'm a hardcore Kindle reader, I'm all ebooks. And so I never know where a book came from if I'm not careful. So, and again, everything's about a cost benefit analysis, right? There may be some benefits to working with a known publisher. But do those benefits outweigh the costs? Is waiting a year to get it published worth it? Is having no control over the cover, the editing worth it? Is still having to do all your own marketing, but on their sort of timetable and with their sort of intensity urging you into it? I have a friend who's in an issue with her publisher right now because he's very annoyed that she's not doing enough to market the book. He's not doing anything to market the book. And they're in a little bit of like a heated back and forth right now. But, so she has the same amount of stress she would have if she self-published. So it's not that one is better than the other universally. It's just what makes sense for you and for your life and for your goals and for your budget and all that other stuff. So I saw another question pop up. So I just want to make sure that I can go back and answer it, because it's a good question from Kathleen regarding the whole black and white versus color situation. And this is weird. So you can have, like, when someone's looking at the book, it will look like black print and color pictures, if that makes sense. But the cost is based on every page being printed as if it were color, if that helps to make that make sense. So visually, it'll look black and white, but you can't pick and choose. Like, I want 10 pages at color and the other 90 pages are black and white and make that the cost assessment. It just doesn't work that way. So, and so at that point, like one of my clients, once she realized that, she was like, well, I'll just make every page color, because why not? Like, now I've got the colors, we're just gonna go.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah, and another way to look at it is, when you're printing something on your printer at home, right? In my printer, I've got a black cartridge and I have my color cartridges, but one of those color cartridges is black.
Mhm.
If I run out of the black cartridge, I can choose to print in color and it will use all of those colors to make black.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to explain it.
So that's what happens with when you're printing like through Amazon.
Mhm.
It's like using all of those colors to make black and color.
Yes.
But you don't really need, but that's what makes it more expensive, because they're
Mhm.
using all of those colors to make black.
That's right. That's exactly it. And so again, based on your own agenda, like maybe that still makes sense for you. Maybe getting those certain pictures in color is worth having the book cost $7 to print instead of $2 to print. Like, that's totally great. That makes sense. For my client who's had the 54-page book and it cost $12, that was essential to her. It's a children's book. It had to be, it just is what it is. So that's fine. So
I guess to clarify, can you have black and white photos and color photos?
you can, but it will be at the cost of the color printing.
Right.
So, but
Okay,
yeah.
so you can have, if some are black and white and look better in black and white, you
Yes.
can mix black and white photos and color photos, but you'll just be paying a color for the black and white photo.
Exactly. Yes.
All
yes.
right, got it now.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't understand. So
Yeah. Meredith, I have a question for you. So how does one pay you? Like this new program that you're going to have that is almost specifically for memoirists, right? Would you charge like a certain fee for editing if people want editing, and for formatting, and for cover design? And does each of those have a different, is there like a menu of options people can choose from?
Yeah, I try to keep it as simple as possible, not have it be like a menu where you're like column A and column B and half a column C. So, but yeah, so it is, we're not a publisher in the traditional sense. We are services, so everything, it's a fee for service, but that means you own and control everything ultimately. But yeah, so with our Easy Memoir program in particular, we have the way we're setting it up is one price for just basic publishing. So kind of the basing it off of like what I did for my grandma and what I've done for some other people since, where the book is done. You don't want to pay for a professional copy edit because you're confident in the book, for whatever reason, that's fine. All you want is for us to do the technical stuff of getting it up, getting it formatted, turned, because when we write our books, they're always 8.5 by 11. That's what all the sheets are, but books generally are smaller, right? They're the most common is 6 by 9, and then 5 by 7 is the second most common size book. So we need to shrink it down. That changes the layout, all that kind of stuff. You can do all of that on Amazon. but do you want to? So so the basic program is just, you give us the information. We're going to give you a couple templates to pick from for a cover. You give us the information for the cover. So it's like, boom, boom, right? Not a lot of money, not a lot of time to just have a very nice product that you can use to give away, to hand out, keep for family legacy. So that would be one price. And then, which we haven't finalized the prices, we're still sort of maneuvering the pieces to make sure that we get it I want it as low as possible in a way that makes sense, because I just want this to be accessible to everybody. But then we have add-ons. So if you do want to edit it, if you do want to access our professional copy editor, that would be an additional price. If you want a custom design cover, if you don't want to work with one of the templates that we have, and you want to just go straight up, like your artwork, your everything, we'll put you with our custom cover designer. You'll go one-on-one and you'll get your custom cover, but that costs more, so those are like upgrades or whatever you want to call it. And again, it might make sense. It might not, like, it just depends. So, and then it goes up from there. So like, if you want the full professional, like every one-on-one sort of white glove treatment, then that's thousands of dollars per month, because you're getting all these experts, you're getting editors and professional layout, and professional cover, and unlimited access to me for questions and support and help and marketing, all that kind of stuff. So we kind of run the gamut, and it just depends on what your agenda is and what meets your needs. So on our website right now, we have information on all of our programs, aside from the Easy Memoir, because we haven't finished building that page yet. But we're planning to launch that February 1st, and y'all be the first to know. And there'll be some discounts involved, because y'all are so nice to come on to this presentation and let me talk at you for an hour. So, so definitely, if you have any interest, hop on. I put the link in the chat, free to sign up on that mailing list. And so, you'll be the first to know when it's open.
I think there was one more brief, short question there from Howard. Can covers be color and the interior
Excellent.
be black and white?
Yes.
Yeah, because the covers are usually a heavier weight stock or glossy or whatever. Yeah.
That is an excellent question, and thank you, because I meant to clarify that. Yes, covers are always color unless you want it to be black and white aesthetically, but and that's the same price. So whatever you do for cover, if you have a million colors or one color, that's the same price, and it's not broken out. Like that $2.30 price that I listed assumes a color cover on a heavier stock and all that stuff. The only thing you can't do that a couple of people have been disappointed by is you can't put printing on the inside of the cover. You know what I mean? Like the cover only prints on one side, so anything else just goes on the first page of the book itself. Does that make sense? So unless you do a hardcover, and then you have some options, but nobody needs to do hardcover. It's super expensive and a pain. But
well, I know you have another. There's one question. Do you get a Library of Congress number?
That is a very good question, and also kind of a debate in the thing. So, if you work with us, you get your own Library of Congress number if you want it, and you don't have to have one. So you have copyright protection on anything you write, and maybe you've already talked about this in your class, but you have copyright protection the minute you create your document. And so you can publish your book and you can put that copyright, 2022 in your name on the cover, and that will work for copyright protection if someone steals your book or tries to republish it, assuming you can prove your original version of the book. So nowadays we all write on computers and they have timestamps, and so you're good. The only benefit to the Library of Congress is if you were to actually try to sue someone for damages, you're unlikely to collect damages without the Library of Congress number, because that sort of makes it an irrefutable date of when the book was published. But it's free to do. It's not hard. All the information is on the Library of Congress website. It's even easier now than it used to be, because they used to make you send in printed books. Now you can send in digital versions. So much easier. So, I mean, I'm like, if you want that, that feels good to you and you want to have that in your book, go for it. We don't help with that because it is so simple, and because it does have to be done by the author. So, we'll answer questions, but you might as well just do it yourself. And then the other thing, which nobody brought up, but is the ISBN number. which is sort of like your universal control number. And you would have to purchase that. You have to have one for every printed book. You don't have to have one for an ebook, but you do have to have it for printed. And if you did like a paperback and a hardcover, you'd need 2 different ones. It's just sort of like, it's the ultimate way they can prove against copyright. Actually, infringement is like, if you go to publish a book on Amazon, you have to put in your ISBN. So if someone else tried to take your book and put your ISBN in, Amazon would be like, no, this book already exists and it belongs to this person. So, which is often how people discover copyright infringement. So, because Amazon says someone's trying to publish your book. So, so if you work with Eaton Press or publish by yourself, you would buy your own ISBN number, which means you own that book. You are the publisher of that book. So when I used to run a more traditional publishing company, I owned the ISBNs, which means when my company went out of business, when I shut the company down, all those books came with it. They all came off of Amazon because I wasn't responsible for them anymore because my company was closed. And that was a horrible feeling. I felt terrible. A lot of hoops that all the authors had to jump through to get their books back and get them back online. And I don't ever want to have to do that again. I don't want my business tied to anyone else's like ability to put their book out there. So you can you can get one very easily through Amazon for $99. So, and it's very easy again to fill out. You just a couple things, fill it out, and you're done, and you've got it. So, and we can help with that if you need it.
Well, it's 3:00 and I know you have another appointment, Meredith. So I just want to thank you again on behalf of everybody for taking your time to do this.
It's my pleasure.
And I'm sure we might want to have a follow-up webinar sometime.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So everybody else, we can talk in class about some of this information and clarify some of it maybe. And I wish everybody well in publishing your book because you all are fabulous writers. And I want to see books in hands, and I guess we'll be working on Martha's. So have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody, and we'll talk again.
Thank you.
Bye, Meredith.
Thank
Thanks.
you all. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thanks, Kathy.